Okay, so I've got a VAX cordless slim vac to test. I'm going to do the porridge and cookies test first. So let's see how it gets on. Okay, so the brush bar's on. There's no difference in power on these. They seem to speed up after a while when it's been on. So if I switch. Okay, well, there's a couple of cookies still left behind, but I guess if I kept going, I would be able to get them. Has that picked any cookies? I can't see any in the bin. Where have they gone? Ah, right, okay. So in here, if I get that near to the camera, you can probably see there's a cookie stuck in the middle there. So that might be interesting to get out. Right, so that's one, so I've got three now. Oh, there's another one in there. Take this off, this will be easier. Oh, and there's one in the brush bar here. Now, I realise that the porridge and cookies test is, you know, a bit of a strange test, but I started doing it, and it's interesting for me to see. Now, this is a much more budget cleaner than I've been testing before. These retail, well, they sell at around about 120, 140, something like that. I mean, sometimes you see them at higher prices, but there's usually one in this range that's available for that sort of price. Now, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how well that picked up the porridge, because the porridge is no mean feat to pick up. So what I might do is spread that over the carpet and just try that a little bit more. Now, still not even a true test, but it will give you an idea of how well the pickup is. So, all this clips together nicely. Some of the other cleaners I've tried have had real, the clicks have been really not very nice to use, but on this it does actually clip together very nicely. So that seems to have picked everything up, and this is more than you would normally get, you know, in a normal amount of cleaning. If I hold it next to my V6, you can see how similar the designs are. So from a size, the length of the pole, the head is obviously wider on my V6, so it's got a wider pickup on that, and it's a much bigger brush bar. The V6 does pick up the cookies better, but still, you know, they can get stuck. Battery time is very similar. Yeah, they're similar cleaners really. The way that the head rotates is different on the DYSON, and with the VAX, if I swivel from side to side, you kind of do it this way, which I don't know if that really is beneficial. Whereas with the DYSON, you can really go around corners and things. They both bobble when you pull them back on this particular row, but more so on the VAX because the head is very light. This feels heavier, even though in the stats it comes out lighter, quite a bit lighter than the VAX. I think I read 2 kilograms and 2.8 for the DYSON, but I think a lot of that is the head is quite heavy on the DYSON, but obviously that's on the floor all the time. But anyway, let's get rid of the DYSON. Pop that there. It's not seeming to drop much, even though it's picked up a huge amount of porridge. And if let's flip that off for now. So you can see it's in the bin there. I'm just going to go and get a box to be able to empty it out into. Okay, so let's empty that out. I like the emptying. It's pretty straightforward. I think we're still going to get the same sort of thing that we get with the DYSON V6, where fluff is going to get caught up over there. So that's going to be an interesting thing as to how that comes out. So on the bottom there's a dirt container release. Press that and pull away. Oh, okay. So that's not bad either. That seems to come away. The contacts are in a similar place as on the V6, so I'm guessing you're going to get some fluff in there on occasion. Which would need to be emptied. This part comes off as well for cleaning. And let's pop that back in. Okay, so that's back in. They've definitely taken their cues from DYSON, haven't they? So as a machine, it's very similar. One thing I noticed as well is that there's a permanent on button here. So you don't have to hold the trigger. Now, it's never bothered me to hold the trigger before, but it's an interesting take, and it's another feature, isn't it? Clean inner filter frequently. So there's a little filter here for cleaning as well. That comes out nicely. It's actually, you know, these have been around for a while, and I've looked at them and sort of thought, oh yeah, it's a DYSON copy. But if not everybody can afford a DYSON, you know, a DYSON is a couple of £100 at least for something like a V6, and if you're lucky around about that, maybe it's £250 for a V7. The V7 is a far superior machine. I would rather my V6 than this. I think the floor head for a main carpet is rather small, and although it's now this is called Pet and Family, it doesn't come with a turbo brush. It comes with this for pickup, and I'll go through what the different tools are like, but it's not as good as a small turbo brush. So certainly if you wanted to clean the car, I think you'd struggle with this. There's a reasonable amount of suction there. Yeah, to be fair, I'm going to do another test on the 32 volt, I think it is, VAX, which is the bigger one in their range, the more expensive one in their range. But this one, if you're on a budget and you don't want to spend a lot of money, or you can't spend a lot of money, I'd say it's pretty decent. It's picked up much better than I thought. Didn't pick up the cookies, but again, that's not really a fair test. You know, it's just something I started. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. Again, if you can afford it, I would buy a DYSON. Certainly a V7 and up is a better cleaner. I mean, the V7's 8 and the V10 are all phenomenal cleaners. And in between, there are still some V6s around. I'd still recommend a V6 over this, but if money's a concern and you're on a tight budget, then I would say this is the best budget cordless cleaner I've tried, really. Okay, so I've emptied the box, and these are all the bits that come with it. So obviously the floor head, which is, you've got a removable brush bar on this, which is a nice touch. You've got an ordinary charger, which just plugs into the back in here. So when this is docked, this is a much sort of cheaper, more basic dock. but when it's docked on that, which, I don't know, it's like that, I guess. Yeah. It's a strange dock. Obviously it's meant to stand on its head and then be docked, so kind of rested, so it supports it, because they say don't leave this unattended, sort of leant against a wall, but you wouldn't with any of the cordless ones really. They're not really designed for that use. But it's got the tool bits here, but interestingly it's just a support really. It's not really like a docking station like a Dyson where you clip it in various different ways. You still have to plug in this charger. If you don't want to use the dock, just charge it up like this, so sat down flat, plug it in. I did a video showing what it's like when it's charging. This had a good 8 hours plus last night. I put it on about midnight and took it off charge about half eight this morning. So that's had a good charge. You've got this interesting over the door sort of hard to reach tool. It's not really a tool I would use particularly. The crevice tool and the brush tool doesn't feel anything like the Dyson. I mean, it all has a sort of cheaper feel, but good enough for its price. So again, always on a budget. I think it's adequate for what it is, but it doesn't feel as nice. So this tool, so pet tool and stair tool. So it's an interesting take. I would always tend to go with a rotating brush. So if I was going to do the stairs, I would still use this tool, because I use the full-size tool on my Dyson for the stairs and that works fine. So I wouldn't really use it for that. I mean, obviously, I guess the idea of it is very rubberized, so it's very sort of tacky to touch. So you're going to be raking it across and it will use suction. So, maybe that'll work all right. I might try that on the stairs in a minute. Okay, so for the stairs, the pickup is good, the suction is good, but because of this rotating head, because of the way it rotates left to right, you kind of can't get it to stick in those corners, so you see those little bits of dust. Can't get that out, whereas with my Dyson I can get it to hold itself in there, but it just, because it's flexible in the way that it is, that side of it's not as good. So I'll just try that little, the blue tool that came with it. Okay, so there's little bits in there. So that would take me far longer than it would with my Dyson using the ordinary tool. I'm not particularly fond of this. I mean, it's okay, but it doesn't really get into the crevices very well. But again, everything for price. That's that. The pipe is much lighter, and that's obviously how they're getting part of the lighter weight. These two components combined are much lighter than the two Dyson ones, but then you're not supporting these two bits, so they don't need to be as light. So I wonder if that's how they've saved some weight. And I'm going to weigh both cleaners because I'm interested to see which one's heavier as just a body. Oh, you get a bag as well, and this is just the fixing kit. Let's move all that out of the way. So let's weigh them. This is the VAX 1446 grams, and my Dyson V6, 1258. So that's part of the reason that when in use, this feels lighter, even though quoted on the websites this is heavier. But that's because the floor tool is a much better build quality and much more substantial, and the pipe is much more solid. This pipe is very light feeling. I would think it wouldn't take too much to dent that, so look after it. But I would say that if you get a dent in there, it's going to be not too hard to fold. So, but you look after these things, don't you? As a cleaner, to be honest, I'm impressed. I like it, and for the money, it's actually very good, and I can't think of any sort of glaring error they've made with it. The battery life is reasonable. The pickup was surprised me. I didn't think it was going to cope with the Porridge. I really thought it was going to clog up. Again, I would still rather my V6, but I would say if I'm buying now and money wasn't an issue, then either a V7, an 8 or a 10 would be the best choice. They are better cleaners. They're a next generation of cleaners. Well, the V10's only just come out, and it is great, but obviously it costs a lot more. But the battery life is amazing on it, and the emptying is much better. So for a budget cleaner, you know, if you can get one of these, a V6 for the 200, 230 mark, something like that, I'd say that's pretty reasonable, especially if you get, like this one, the Total Clean, where you get the fluffy head and so on. There's a lot of tools that come with that, and it's very, very well built. But if you're looking at £120, and that thereabouts, they do sort of 3 models of this with different tools. It's actually very good. So thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll be doing, hopefully next week, I'll do the 32 volt version, which it's going to be interesting because I picked it up in the store and I didn't like the way it felt. But as with this, you kind of need to have a bit of time to play with it, to do some vacuuming with it, to really make a good informed opinion. Alright, thank you, bye bye.